Hello and welcome to the latest Business of the Business podcast. I am your co-host, JP Jampaz from the Two-Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the doctor himself, Mr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, John, I'm doing well. We have the Xanta Claus or a belated Hanukkah Harry edition. I've been having some fun with Balls Mahoney pictures. It was
Yes.
very easy on AI to turn Xanta Claus into Hanukkah Harry. So you'll have to wait for our promotional materials to see that. I guess, you go. I don't know if your audience in the Two-Man Power Trip and the Patreon is looking for such content, but if I had one currently, that would be something I would tease.
I thought maybe you were saying that they should bring that gimmick back, the Santa Claus.
Why not? Especially for the holiday editions, as I'm coming off the Christmas collision at the Hammerstein Ballroom for AEW. We're in that mood, even if we have different religions of practice.
So basically, it's the 34th Street Dynamite, if you will, right? The New York City Hammerstein Christmas collision. How was the show? Did you enjoy the show and maybe even saw a special visitor pop in?
Yes, John, and you made a good point. I was reading off the graphic, but I was not there for Christmas Collision. I was there for the Dynamite on 34th Street edition. So I did have one objective in going to the show, in which I met it. I ran into Mookie Ghana, Chris Harrington, Senior Vice President of AEW, immediately with his distinctive classic cap. I was on the floor, the third row, and I saw him talking to a colleague or coworker, and rudely started yelling over Chris while he was in the middle of talking. And then we had a chance to chat for a few minutes. Our first time actually meeting in person. So that was cool. What else? My son came with me, who's 10. I was very curious to see what his reaction would be to the show. As we've talked about, right, he's been to at the top of Madison Square Garden for last year's holiday show. Unfortunately, there's not one this year. He's been to a VFW, very small independent wrestling show in Yonkers, and now he's in the third row for the Hammerstein Ballroom AEW show. So what I've learned is he is independent to his core. He still loved the VFW show best. We were a lot closer now, but it does, like, third row does feel kind of far away. They're not maximizing the space, for better or worse. Like, GCW, they packed in 2,000. Here it was just 1,500, and there's a lot of floor space. So the third row was kind of far back. Being 10 years old, if he sat down, it would be hard to see over people's heads. So most of the time he was standing on his chair until he got tired, and that happened about an hour and a half in. I asked him if it felt different, like did anyone feel like a star more? He had no idea what I was talking about. Like for me, and no body shaming, whatever, like obviously an independent wrestler, they have to do other things, so they don't have the chance to train or take the right vitamins or whatever it may be, like get the tans, all that sort of thing. So I would think, like, when you see AEW or WWE stars, some of them are gigantic. Pac looks like a He-Man now. I don't know, like maybe it was just seeing him up front. He looked like a Master of the Universe type of body. And I like it without the long stringy hair now. But for him, there was no difference in that way. I said, who was most memorable? The Costco guys. He loved seeing the Costco guys because he knew them. And who else was memorable to him? Their opponents. What are they? The frat house, which seemed like, to me, kind of a mishmash, but he thought they were pretty funny. What else stood out to him? As a 10-year-old, people doing inappropriate things was entertaining. So anytime somebody gave, the wrestler gave the fans the finger, the fans gave the wrestler the finger, that was really funny. Some of the outfits were kind of funny to him. He's like, Minna needs a new pair of shorts. It's not fully covering what it needs to. So he was a little bit concerned about that and had a suggestion in that regard. But all in all, he had fun. But you could see, like, it started at 7, which is pretty early for a wrestling show. And, the Ring of Honor tapings, then there was really no lull in the action, a little bit of delay, kind of mic checks and whatever for the AEW taping. But then partway through that, like, he got tired, and I think most of the fans did a little bit on. And then by the time the second Ring of Honor taping was coming along, like, he was done. And I wouldn't say most fans are, but you see that, and I saw that last year too. People start heading for the exits after the AEW taping is over. What else that was memorable? Of course, Tony Khan comes out to talk to the audience. I missed the second time where he had that reveal about the first Dynamite having been planned for Madison Square Garden. If it was, and we can talk about this more in a minute, I don't know why they didn't push like Ring of Honor and New Japan did. They already had that precedent. It wasn't that long before that to keep the date or get the date, on there. But maybe it was too much for the first show. But something from a business perspective that was funny. He said, "I have a letter of greetings," and he's like reading this like corporate speak or whatever, and he's like, "It's from David Zaslav of the Turner Network," and people started booing, and he was genuinely like, no, that's, don't do that, like whatever. Like, it's interesting, like, thinking that this person's name would get cheers. I mean, people should be happy that Turner supports them in such a way, but Tony Khan seems surprised that people reacted in such a way.
Of course, come on, Tony, you know better than that. The MSG thing, I kind of took that like almost like tongue in cheek. Like, I don't know how serious he really was, because people would have heard that, and obviously Raphael Morphy, who was very prolific with the company at that point, was the one who picked the DC place, and obviously that sold out and that did very well. And MSG was never brought up, so interesting that he said that. So I'm not sure if that was more like tongue in cheek type of thing.
That is interesting. I will have to go back to the video and see if that was something. I don't know. Like, maybe it was like, along different stages, like not very close.
No, I think Tony's dead serious when he said it to the crowd, but I feel like he was kind of saying that almost like, yeah, because he's trying to get like the hometown pop kind of thing. Like, I don't know if that was ever legit. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that.
So I actually want to sleuth this now, and I'm just going to ask, while we buy some time, I'm just going to ask Rock what happened at Madison Square Garden on that date, because it's pretty rare, right, that MSG would have an open date.
Right.
Were there any shows on October 2nd, 2019? Hopefully that's correct, according to Google, at Madison Square Garden. Okay. And it's thinking. I mean, if it does say, okay, so it says no, there were no shows on October 2nd.
Wow, the date was open, right? Tony.
Now let's see, is there anything that would have required setup? I don't know who Maluma is. They played on October 4th, followed by other things. I don't know what was on October 1st, but it is possible that it could have taken place, on that date. So
yeah. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not just saying that. Wow. They should have done it. Why the heck wouldn't you do it?
I think, I think it was sort of like, maybe like, okay, we're a young company. Like, this is going to be a whole thing to like sue them or threaten to sue them or whatever. And maybe by the time it's resolved, maybe we would get damages or we would change the policy. But I don't think there was a huge amount of time, John, between when they announced the first show and where it would be and like tickets going on sale. So maybe it was like a little bit, tight in that way.
Now, obviously, there's some other big wrestling news besides you heading to Dynamite there. What is going on in the world of TNA? Any new things as far as AMC and the first show and the live taping?
Yeah, so one of the first things that I noticed, I've actually had like a whole ordeal with my cable company to kind of unwind out of it. I just wanted internet, so it's on top of the mind. But my wife loves the movie Elf. Like, and she's not very big on like silly comedies, but she loves Elf. So every year as a family, we watch it. So this year I was looking like, how do we get it, basically for free or based on what services we have. So I think it's AMC that it airs on. So we DVR'd it and we watched it. And while we were watching it, there was a number of ads for the debut of TNA on AMC, January 15th, I believe. And who is featured over and over again in the ad? The Hardy Boys.
Wow.
Which not surprising because they would be, when you're trying to reach a mainstream audience, they would resonate the most. Except now we're hearing they're not necessarily signed. It seems likely that they would sign, but that would be not a great start if they're not signed. What else is going on with TNA? So just looking at the January 15th show, there's still tickets left in the second row, and some here and there. They're using a partial setup in this bigger venue in Texas, and some tiered seats are still available. More seats have moved actually for Genesis on January 17th, but still looks slow at the moment, only 3 weeks out. So, I think it speaks to that there isn't a necessity as much to push another record-breaking show, because I think that was more, to get a deal like this, to make it look hot. But you definitely don't want it to be so dark for your debut show and, have the sound resonate off, an empty building. So I think that one way or another, they'll figure out not necessarily how to completely fill it up, but I think it will look good on television. And let's see. So the Albuquerque show at the Tingley Coliseum is actually just going on sale as we're recording this. So I'm going to see if I can get a sense from Ticketmaster of what that looks like. So we're very much in the moment here as we look into things, but let's just see if I can get that. So let's see. It's actually not on Tixer.com. So let's just see if we can get some idea. Okay, so this is their the thing where they announced like that they have a deal with them. It's locked, so it's a pre-sale. Not going to worry about getting that code right now, but just to see if I could get an idea by looking at the map. Okay, so it's a pretty big setup. Looks like a half house setup in the Tingley Coliseum. And it's a pretty cool venue. So not much more to say about that at the moment. So that is TNA as it stands. John, I know we've talked about this a little bit. What are you thinking about in terms of promotion leading up to the event to get people talking besides the TNA hardcores on the internet and people that go to AMC? And what type of rating do you think we'll see?
I don't know. I feel like I've been seeing it, like when I watch AMC, there's a bunch of Christmas movies. I've been seeing a lot of promotion for it that way. I've been seeing a lot of promotion online, but that could be my algorithm. So I don't know if it's hitting the non-fans or the hardcore adjacent, if you will, like the other guys. So I'm not sure, but in my algorithm, I'm seeing a lot on my TV watching Elf and other things. I've been seen commercials, but as far as like the rating, I don't know. I feel like if it's 100K, it might be a success just because of the way we've seen how bad ratings have been just in general. I don't know. What are your thoughts? 100K would be okay?
Yeah, I'm about the same thing, if not a little bit lower, which I think is a challenge, right? Because I don't think they're going. I mean, maybe the first week they will. They'll exceed like an AEW secondary show, especially one that's like out of their usual time slot. But I can see it being multiples of that. And AMC does pretty well as a network. And if the ad rates typically are lower for pro wrestling and you're not exceeding their average, that's a challenge. So definitely not only the first week, it's an important number to look at, but as the heat comes off it a little bit, we get a sense of what the ratings will be once they stabilize.
What about New Japan Pro Wrestling?
So just a quick New Japan update. As they've crossed the 1,000 ticket threshold for Trenton, New Jersey. This show is until February 27th. 1,007 tickets distributed. A very small setup at the moment at 2,783 at the Cure Insurance Arena, with a potential seats on the map of 8,576, according to WrestleTix. So, factoring out however many international talents that they're sending, whatever, I think if they, given the current market, I think if they do exceed 2,500 seats sold, I think that would be a win, a realistic win given their positioning in today's marketplace.
With that, they sold 50,000 tickets for the Tokyo Dome Tanahashi retirement. So 1,000, not really looking too good, but obviously the completely different situation there.
Yeah, the Tanahashi thing is really interesting because it's sort of like, it's a goodbye, clearly. It's a nostalgia. So, you have a lot of people that care about New Japan or have cared about it at certain points, at least, in the last 20 years, I guess would be that time period. But the Japanese market is a harder one to gauge, of course, just because it's so different. So you have those people there. But how do you capitalize on it? And, maybe, you really do need that hot angle or star to emerge, like Aaron Wolf. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this, Takeshita?
Mm-hmm.
Or Takeshita. So I was kind of, I wasn't following this close. So he's the man in New Japan now? He's the IWGP champion? Right? So, and he was on the AEW show, not AEW show. And to me, and he just doesn't seem like a world champion. I don't know, John. Maybe it's just not coming across to me. Totally be wrong. This is just an impression that I had. I don't know how you build a promotion around him.
I like him. I think he's great. He's just not at that level yet. To me, anyway, he hasn't crossed that threshold yet. Could get there, but I don't know. Not quite yet. But obviously, the main event's Tanahashi versus Okada.
Yeah. So So you have that you have that main event. And again, I'm not Takeshita. I'm not saying whatever, but I would think traditionally IWGP champion, you really really a standout top of the business. And sometimes the belt goes to the person most ready for it, and sometimes you're looking to build someone with the belt. So he could grow into it. So curious to see. I won't be following that closely, but then it's also a little bit hard with him in AEW, balancing that not only in terms of timing, but sort of the way AEW would want him portrayed as well, sort of, and not spoiler alert, unless I'm mixing up the names, but he went basically toe to toe with Orange Cassidy, and it was a great match, but it was sort of is Orange Cassidy IWGP championship material? I know it's a different world. I don't want to be Jim Cornette or an old school type of thing, but those are just my thoughts as somebody 45.
Yeah, just it's kind of an interesting dynamic there. This, by the way, this will be the fourth time that Okada and Tanahashi have headlined the Wrestle Kingdom Tokyo Dome show on January 4th. Kind of a big time, big time thing to see here. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is especially from the outside looking in, and to be able to still draw and so on. Maybe it's been a while since they did it, but John Cena and Randy Orton, or, that sort of thing where you had the same people going against each other because they were the best stars, the biggest stars, at the time. But I think that's special to see that. You always have different opportunities. Is it the most classic one? Is it should you have a new star or whatever? One of the things, John, we didn't talk about, maybe it is the time to do it. Should John Cena have lost his last match? What were your thoughts on that?
Yes, I don't know if I'm in the minority on it, but yes, and the way he did it was perfect. Yes, I liked it. I saw a lot of complaints online. I was kind of shocked by it. What does Gunther get from losing that match? He wouldn't even be in it if he's going to lose. So yeah, I liked the way it was done. Did you like it?
So like, and I didn't even watch the match, so I don't have the pulse of it. But for me, I think if it's done right, either is okay. But I think like it's hard to take back like an all-time moment, and I don't think Gunther needed it. I don't think John Cena should have dominated Gunther, but I think like got like a ticked off Gunther who, let's say, dominated the match with Cena, and Cena just had more heart, and hits the is it still called the FU? When whatever it
Yep.
is, at the last moment and gets the win, and Gunther is just like really angry and like pops back up. I don't think that would have diminished him because he's not undefeated, at this point. Like it didn't break his streak or whatever. And then Cena has his moment, and then Gunther's right there. Like you had this main event moment, on to the next. Maybe even being more important to him to like retire the next person because he missed out on that opportunity. So I think there are moments there, and just the people that were there to experience the moment. Like sometimes you do have to have that, happy ending.
I don't know. Weird. If it was against somebody else, I would have said yes. But that to me, that was perfect. I liked that. I even liked the tap out because it was like a very soft. Like I don't know. I liked it, and he obviously explained it with Cody Rhodes, the whole meaning behind it. But I thought it was good. I was happy. I'm not a John Cena fan either, so I wasn't like upset. Like people were so upset. Oh, I can't believe he lost. So I liked it. I thought it was good.
What was the thing? I haven't seen the video of it, like where he's smiling as he's like getting.
Basically, he's accepting death. Like, when somebody's about to die and they're about to, head off, he's almost like at peace with himself. So he's
Okay.
accepting the fact that he's moving on. So he's accepting it. Then he taps and he's moving on into his next world, if you will. So kind of poetic, if you will. I thought it made sense. That's what I thought it was. And then he explained it to Cody Rhodes. That's exactly what it was.
I like that. I think like you don't often get to see something like that. And it is like, I mean, you don't want to take it to like sci-fi, but what if like the Avengers with Thanos and they like
Yeah.
the little
Yes.
pieces away,
Pixelate. Yeah.
like that would be cool if like on I mean
Yep.
people would go crazy whatever, but like there would be cool if you have him like fade away in that way. Maybe like in a reclap type of thematic thing. Maybe you could do something like that.
And then people were upset that Cena got the belts handed to him by Cody and Punk, that they're like, he didn't win those belts. It's like a sign of respect, obviously. And they did it in 2005. Batista and Cena did it for Hogan in 2005 when he's basically winding it down. It's like a sign of respect. Like, you were the man before, and now, we're the guys now. So people were complaining about everything with the booking of that. I thought it was well done.
Yeah, I think there's not. I think I haven't heard our friend Jeff Jarrett talk about it, calling it the worst finish in the history of the business, which no, that's the finger poke of doom. Yeah, that will never change. It will not devastate WWE's business and so on. But it is like a hard thing because like Bob Backlund's thing makes a lot more sense as the years go on, where like he didn't want to turn heel at the time. People relied on him. Like you had like young fans, you had Make-A-Wish kids there, and like you really need a happy ending. So that's the hard thing. It's not always like, yes, you don't want to like pull the heart of the business away, and that's something that you can't rebuild from. But that's why, like, my argument is like you keep Gunther strong. It actually gives him like an impetus to like be even more brutal or whatever it may be, so that he could go on to his next feud. But either way, I think the business will survive. They made a lot of money.
And they booed the hell out of him. He couldn't even talk when he came out on Raw. They were booing so much. And people were complaining he came out a couple times, but each time he came out, he got booed louder and louder and louder. And then he was doing the "you can't see me," and then they went nuts. I mean, it was he was having a tremendous amount of heat. I know people were crying about it, but literally probably crying about it because they were mad that he beat Cena. So it's kind of in perfect alignment to what they want.
Yeah, I like that people were. I mean, whatever, but I like that people were chasing him. After the show, like you want that sort of heat.
Yes.
As long as he's the one, like they should be like, you're the only one that could do that. You can't see me, because once everyone starts doing it, like at MSG for his last match at MSG, like it gets so cheesy or whatever. But like if
Yes.
one person,
Yes.
like it reminds me of, I think it was in the Attitude Era when people started copying each other's finishers, like
Yep.
as a mocking thing. Like you would never see that, and then suddenly everyone started doing it. It was like the first time or the first person that did it was cool, but now it's just annoying.
Yes. Rock and Austin, when they did it, it was great. Then everyone started doing it. It's like, oh, guys, come on. Like, so lame. But what the heck, by the way, I wanted to ask you about this. What's going on with Real American Freestyle? It seems like they're getting very pro wrestling orientated. Like a lot of the, like they're kind of doing like storylines and stuff. What's going on with them?
Yeah, so in terms of their last event, which was the 4th, and they're coming, I think, about once a month now, which is a little bit surprising, that they had done, at least as the last count that WrestleTix had, which was prior to the event, so likely more people were there, 3,000 people in Fishers, Indiana, the Fishers Event Center. I think it's, it's a balance that you have the young people and like the star that you would expect. Hendrickson beating Paris, and I'm not an expert in amateur wrestling today, but like Mason Paris, like he's kind of in a disappointment like post college, right? Like he was had a good chance of winning an Olympic medal. He didn't win it. Now he lost to Hendrickson. I think it's smart to use to have that young and up and coming people, and then have like MMA people who are at the tail end of their career. Like that's just good for attention. For the unofficial videos that I've seen on YouTube, however, I just like the look and feel of it. It's hard. It's just hard to know the financials behind it, and we'll basically know if they keep going. If it makes sense, they have a backer from what's sort of been shared publicly from like a Penn State booster. I had the name, which escapes me at the moment, but an older person who just loves Penn State wrestling, loves amateur wrestling. So they're at least one of the funders are funding this experience. So it's interesting to see if they, with this Fox app, if they get renewed, if they move somewhere else, higher profile. But it's just something to see. I would say like it's impressed me more than I was expecting. I didn't have high expectations of it. I think, and this is something I've said a little bit before, but I think something that has to be said with sensitivity. Of course, it's very tragic, Hulk Hogan's passing and so on. But I think in terms of their branding, it would have been difficult if Hulk Hogan was the face of the company. He gave them attention. It was sort of like gave them their blessing and off to the start. But like for anyone that's not a longtime WWE fan, they kind of like wouldn't understand why Hulk Hogan was there. So for them, just in terms of branding, we don't want anyone, to pass away prematurely or anything like that. I'm saying that with the most sensitivity possible. Like it's, their branding is probably stronger now. John, I hope as a big Hulkamania fan, I hope I said that, in the most appropriate context. Let me know if not.
Well, sometimes he could be so popular and so famous, if you will, like he could take away from what you're trying to do because he's just too famous. You know what I mean? Even when he did some movies and stuff, it's like, oh, that's Hogan. You know what I mean? Like you kind of get distracted a little bit. He was almost too famous sometimes to be a part of something like that.
Yeah, you put that in the best context. That's sort of why, like, I think when Hogan would like drop in and out of wrestling, it would just be so like all encompassing and overwhelming that like either he was the biggest thing in the business and like, it was doing great, or when people got tired of it, they were just like so tired of it. So it's like it's hard to have that balance. Maybe a little bit like, with the, when he wore the mask, Mr. America, whatever, like it wasn't, it was just like stable sort of thing. But there were so many periods where it was just like he has to go. No, he has to be at the top and whatever. But I think that feedback balances it well and keeps me out of trouble.
Now let's talk Major League Wrestling. What is going on in MLW?
So one of the things that I thought is a smart idea is that, as they establish roots in Charleston, South Carolina, they haven't announced another show yet, but they have an email list just for Charleston. So I signed up for it just to see what happened. I haven't got anything yet, but I think that's interesting. In terms of their upcoming shows, the Battle Ride 8 in Florida, 295 tickets distributed, 849 set up. In terms of reserve seats, so according to WrestleTix, they said the GA could include up to 300 additional seats. Lucha Apocalypto, the long pushed off show in Chicago, looks like a near sellout, just a few tickets here and there, at least in terms of the reserve. Center Stage, March 14th. It hasn't been on sale that long, so just a couple rows to begin. One of the things that gets a little bit confusing, because sometimes they'll even call it like a fusion taping, is like, are they airing weekly on beIN Sports? And things have changed a little bit. So just ask Brock this, and just to give us a better sense. MLW is no longer produces a traditional weekly episodic series like the older fusion format. Instead, its content focuses on periodic tape specials and live events, which air as standalone broadcasts rather than weekly episodes. New content typically releases irregularly, often tied to major events. Blood and Thunder, Fury, Slaughterhouse, Fightland. Specials are frequently aired live or premiered on Thursdays at 8 p.m. And simultaneously on beIN Sports or beIN Sports Extra. Replays or delayed airings often occur Saturdays at 10 p.m. on beIN Sports. MLW produces and airs new weekly specials roughly every 4 to 6 weeks.
What about GCW? They've got a lot of shows coming up.
So I'm getting the sense that GCW is sort of finding their way in this market once again, and we've talked about the challenges even with Brett. But one of the things I didn't ask Brett, I'm just looking at how things are going. I feel like they're leaning more into the death match, right? Like it could be a balance, and sometimes and they were in the mall, and that's obviously a very clean show, whatever. But I just feel like there's more opportunities to do death matches. Less major promotions are doing that. Of course, AEW drops it in here and there and so on. But they had the Nick Gage Invitational once again in Orlando. I'm not sure if it was the same venue as before. Probably. It looked like pretty sparse attendance for that. The New Year's Eve show at the venue in New Jersey that's been used a lot by a lot of different promotions. I think Ridgefield. That there's still 10 or more tickets in the first and second row available. Something that did pop, which we talked about before, January 3rd, one night only in Berlin, Illinois, and that is a death match show. The Code on the Streets show still has 10 tickets left in the second row, 10 tickets left in the third row. Kansas, their newly tickets on sale, so we'll have to wait for that. Crushed Up on January 31st has 10 in the front row and 10 second row and beyond. They have their in February Jersey J Cup, which is with JCW. I kind of think about that as something different. Orange Crush is something different. Then back to LA in February, newly on sale there. Front row has 5 tickets remaining. Second row and beyond 10 or more. Holy Smokes 2026. The front row just has a few tickets remaining. Second row 10 or more. Talking about the death match, March 6th in Louisville. They said it couldn't be done, Bourbon Hall, so that will be a bloody show. Typically, it's been known that if you wanted to do blood in the Kentucky area, you go across the river to Indiana. So leaning more into the blood. And then this is a triple shot weekend. Return to Columbus, Ohio on March 7th and return to Chicago on March 8th.
How about here and there? Your favorite topic of all time, which is a bunch of topics.
Yeah. So this week, here and there, but not necessarily everywhere. So one of the things I was just thinking about was into 2026, what shows are we aware of where there's none of the promotions that we usually talk about? So obviously not WWE or AEW, but also not GCW, which typically doesn't run 1,000+ seat venues, but neither does MLW typically, but not TNA also. So all the challenger brands. What other promotions are running 1,000 plus seat venues in 2026, like the first quarter of it thus far, in terms of what was announced. So ACW, the Poughkeepsie Rumble. So at the Convention Center, formerly known as the Mid-Hudson Civic Center, January 3rd. So they, have clearly taken over the venue from Northeast Wrestling. They've run a number of shows, and that seems to be going well for them. Limitless Wrestling, the Coliseum. So as we've interviewed the owner before, it became a couple summers in a row, but now they're doing in January. So I think that's like, I love that, like using like an old venue like that, and you have like all those roots, and you can sort of like point everything towards shows like that. Prestige Wrestling at the Roseland. Roseland Theater is a 1,400 seat venue in February. House of Glory has a couple ambitious shows. So again, noting how they are growing. January 30th at the Globe Theater in LA, and then they're going to be back in conjunction with the big event NY, which is really smart, again, at the Suffolk Credit Union Arena. Outside those, in terms of bigger shows, of course, our friend Kevin Kleinrock and the team at Mass Republic has the Masked Mania, very ambitious shows once again. January 24th at the Sames Auto Arena in Laredo, which is a 10,000 plus venue. Boeing Center and Techport in San Antonio, 6,300 seat venue. The Blue Arena in Loveland, Colorado, 7,200 seats. And the Mission Ballroom in Denver, 3,950 potential seats. So I think next time, or at least as we get closer, we'll kind of take a look at the seat maps, if we're open there. But just as far as we're aware, the promotions that are running 1,000 plus seat venues, if you're aware of any more, please do reach out and we'll add it to the list.
Is OVW, what's going on with them? I feel like a lot of here and there, but we haven't talked to OVW in a long time.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things, I guess I should have put it before here and there, thematically. It was part of here and there, and then I switched up. But
Gotcha.
One of the things that they're doing, which is interesting, is they're actually having a tour, really utilizing their connections and football contacts in Europe, specifically England, and like really come over for a tour. You can see OVW in Louisville, which is interesting. Something else that they're doing, which I think is really smart, and TNA has done this sort of thing before, connecting with the streamers and content producers to sort of get the word out there. So OVW partners with Creator Sports Network to bring live weekly shows and premium events to creator-led streaming audiences. Built to connect live sports with digital native audiences, CSN pioneered the industry's first creator social rights window, enabling creators to legally broadcast live sports directly to their communities on platforms such as YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and beyond. Through this partnership, OVW content will be streamed by creators who add their own commentary, personality, and community engagement. Kind of sounds fun. John, if there were more hours in the day, I'd probably have fun chatting with you. Like we could stream
OVW that wouldn't be bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something fun. I just can't imagine doing it in a consistent way, but maybe we should do it once, have some fun with it.
I like it. Hopefully OVW stepped up the game, making it worth it. So
that is the news this week, John.
Yeah, so let's wrap this bad boy up. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to everybody out there. This was a full-packed episode. Even talked about Tony Khan, talked AEW, talked John Cena and WWE, which not always happen on the show. So you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2ManPowerTrip. How about you, Lavie?
Follow me on X, Lavie Marg, LAVIE-MARG. If you need a last-minute gift, and I've seen this over the years through Amazon, I think it would probably be one-day delivery, depending on where you are in your service. Check out Trump Mania. Vince McMahon, WWE, and the making of America's 45th president. There's 2 editions there. And LinkedIn, we have to get to 150 members soon. Check out the business of the business on LinkedIn.
Right. Thank you, everybody out there, for tuning in. We'll see you right back here next week for a little business of the business.